Hello you guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Kate and I'm super excited to be bringing you all my vampy lip tutorial now that we are in full-fledged spooky season. I absolutely love doing this look. It's super easy, super simple, but looks like you put in so much time and effort into it. You guys went crazy when I shared this on Instagram a few weeks ago, so I wanted to recreate it so you guys could follow along if you also wanted to recreate it too and needed some inspo for the Halloween and fall season. So I'm gonna go ahead and jump right in, but keep on watching if you wanna see how I got this look. So with the look that I'm doing today, the star of the show is obviously the lips because they're gonna be the darkest, they're bold, and they are just super eye-catching. So everything else I'm gonna keep light, luminous, airy, and I'm gonna kick off with doing obviously my face. So I've already went ahead and primed and I used one of my favorites. This is the Coconut Skin Smoothie Primer from First Aid Beauty. It is just so hydrating and it's moisturizing. It feels light on the skin and it has some luminosity. So that is one of my absolute favorites and go-tos that I use all the time. Then for my foundation today, I'm gonna be using another favorite, which is the MAC Studio Fix Fluid in NC37. I just apply my foundation right to a beauty blender and start stippling that on. I feel like when I do this, I don't overuse product and it's just cleaner. It's not as messy. So this is the perfect, I feel like full coverage foundation if you want something that doesn't feel super heavy on the skin and has like a beautiful, I don't want to say it's dewy, it's not at all, but it's also not matte. Luminous, we'll go with luminous. It has like a really just nice like natural skin finish. Then for concealer, I actually like to layer concealers and double up on them. So the first one that I'm using is Frankie Rose. This is our little secret concealer. I use the shade Chai, and I'm just gonna apply that under the eyes, forehead, down the nose, Cupid's bow, and my chin. So once we have that first concealer all blended out and pressed into the skin, it looks super nice and flawless. I like to take the Too Faced Born This Way Naturally Radiant Concealer. This is in the shade Medium Nude, and I just apply a little bit right under my eyes. This stuff is magical, you guys. I don't know what it is, but I always notice it in pictures when I use this. It just looks so smooth and flawless. It looks like I've had Botox or something compared to what my other photos look like. I'm human, so I definitely have that little tear trough area that, you know, is just gonna be there unless I do go get Botox. But this just fills it in, smooths it out, and there is absolutely no lines. So it's a lifesaver for sure. If you haven't tried it out, I would say definitely pick it up. I tend to switch off between the shade Medium Nude and then the shade Light, just depending on the time of year. Once we have the concealer on, I use my favorite Too Faced Ethereal Setting Powder and I take it on a little beauty blender and I'm gonna start to set and press all of that in underneath. And for me, I take the powder on a beauty blender and press it in anywhere that I put the concealer. For the other places that just have foundation on them, I'll take a brush and set those areas. All right, now for setting the rest of my face, I like to use a fluffy brush like this size and just staple it on. I don't know why I wear these hoops every single time, and every single time they always get in the way. So I'll just do my cheeks down here. And then I'll do the rest of my forehead. And then I will also bring it down my neck. And that's because I brought my foundation down my neck. And basically with setting, the whole point of it is I don't want anything to be left sticky. One, because then I feel like it'll come off easier, and two, that's just not a good feeling to have on your face at all. So I do bring it down my neck and set. So basically with setting, the way that I test and make sure that I have gotten everything and we're in a good place skin-wise is I should be able to run my finger over my face and nothing should stick to it. And I did. Everything is nice and soft and we're good to go. So I do have a new favorite bronzer, which is the Shocker, because I'm usually pretty tried and true to the ones that I use. But this one I used and got in the mail like a couple months ago. I've been using it ever since, and it's the matte bronzing powder in Soleil 1. This is by Laura Mercier and it's just stunning. I love the color. I'm not gonna lie though, it says matte, but I feel like it definitely has like some like pretty shimmery flecks throughout. Like it's not a shimmery bronzer, but I definitely don't think it's 110% matte. But it's just a gorgeous color. I love the way that it goes on. I really like the way that it looks. And it's just been good to me. I love a product that I can use consistently and I know I'm gonna be happy with the results every time. That's just not the case with some of them. So this one I feel like is great to start out with and start building up the color of your bronzer. I like to use this angled contour brush, by the way. I just think that it's a really nice, precise brush and I love the size of it. And this helps just kind of pack on color and like chisel out those areas that you want. And then I am gonna go back through and I like to add something that's a little bit warmer on top. Next, I like to take Give Me Sun by MAC, and I like to lightly dust that on mainly the cheekbones, but I'll brush it back as well. This is a very warm bronzer, and I think it just adds so much life to the skin. However, it is one that I personally don't use alone just because I think it is a little bit too warm for my skin tone. Other people, depending on your skin tone, totally could, but for me, I just like to lightly dust this on top of like a cooler toned or darker sort of bronzer, just to add some life. I went ahead and popped some powder underneath my contour just to chisel out my cheekbones a little bit more and do some baking. So I'm gonna let that sit until after I finish my eyes. But for now, I'm gonna go ahead and hop into doing my brows because they need some TLC for sure. And I finally have my favorite brow pencil handy and I'm not run out of it. I feel like I have filmed videos so many times over the course of this year, and I talk about this pencil. Let me show it to you guys. It's the CoverGirl Microfine and Define, and like the last 3 times I filmed a video and done my brows, I haven't had this pencil available. So sucks to suck, but now I have it. So I'm just gonna lightly start underlining my brows. And I have a full brow video, by the way, if you all are more interested in like my maintenance and upkeep of that and what I do, because I do not wax or thread them at all. I do all my brow care at home by me, myself, and I. And it's definitely something that's doable. Talk about a brow glow up. I don't know if I mentioned it, but this is truly my favorite brow pencil. I think I did mention that part, but it's only like $6 and it's so good. As you can see, I feel like it just does an amazing job. So I love drugstore options, and this is my favorite brow pencil of life. So I couldn't recommend it enough to you guys. And I am in the shade Honey Brown. I feel like that's the perfect color. It's just, it deepens them a little, but it doesn't make them like super, super dark. Because that would be weird. All right, brow game, looking strong. Not mad about it. So I'm gonna go ahead and just hop right into shadow, because that's next in my routine. If you all have watched my other videos, or if you follow me on Instagram and have followed along with any sort of story tutorial that I've done, then you know this right here is my holy grail of all time, and it is my MAC Paint Pot and Bear Study. This is what I use time and time again for my eyeshadow primer. So naturally today, this is what I'll be using. I do use this brush now. I used to use my finger, but my nails are too long now to do that. But I use this brush just to apply it. I just kind of brush it on. And if you noticed earlier in the tutorial, I did not at any point ever set my eyelids. So they are still wet, I guess, with foundation and concealer. So I never set them. They don't get an ounce of powder on them until I start doing my shadow. And me personally, I think that that just helps them, one, go on better, and two, look more pigmented and stay on all day long. For those of you who are more beginners when it comes to makeup, I think you're really gonna love the eye look of this because it is truly so simple and easy. So I think you'll actually be blown away by how easy it is. So to start out, I'm gonna take this Francation palette by Desi and Katie in Dose of Colors. Sorry, I showed it upside down. And I'm just gonna take the lightest shade in the palette here on a big fluffy brush, and I'm just gonna buff that into my crease. And then I'm gonna deepen it ever so slightly by mixing that super light color with this really pretty, like neutrally brown. It's like the perfect transition shade. And for this look, it's just, again, super light, super airy, natural. I use 2 palettes to get the color that I want. You could use whatever you wanted. I would say as long as you have like a shimmer shade in the palette and then like a nice transition color. And then you will also need pink, which I feel like so many of my girls that follow me, especially on Instagram, like are not fans of the pink on themselves. Because it's something that I use all the time, but give it a try. Don't knock it until you try it. I feel like it actually ends up looking so much softer than you might think, which I'll show you all in just a moment. For the second palette that I use for this look, I have the Sweet Talk palette by ColourPop. This palette is so stunning. I love the shades in it, absolutely gorgeous. Only thing that I hate is that it does not have a mirror. I need a mirror because I want to look at myself, but the palette itself is so pretty. And the color that I'm going to start off using is this one right here on the corner called Catch Me. And it's a super soft, like baby pink. And I'm using it on a fluffy brush right here. And I'm just going to start by buffing that into the crease, but lower than I did my transition shade. And you can be messier with this one. It really doesn't matter. It's more so we're just like brightening that area and blending it in with the 2 transition shades. So if it's not perfect, that's okay. These palettes are super affordable, by the way. It just hit me, I didn't share that, but they're under 20. I think this was like $18. And I am such a fan of ColourPop's shadows. They are so pigmented and pretty and affordable. Like, hello, under 20, I can't even. All right, so once we've dusted that on pretty good, I'm gonna take my finger and I'm gonna apply this middle shade here, or the second one from the end, sorry. Oh, lovely. And this one is side to side, and it's just like super, super creamy and rich shimmer shade. And I'm just gonna lightly press that in on the lid. Now I'm just gonna go back and just kind of blend with the brush that I used for the pink color. And then just to make sure everything's blended out, I'm taking back that fluffy brush and adding that very lightest color that I used at the beginning and just going back over it. Because of how light and airy we want the eyes to be, because the lips are gonna be so dark, I do not even put anything on the outer corner of the eye at all. It's gonna basically stay just like this. The final two things that we do for the eyes, and this is why I say I think you all will like this, because it's so easy, is we're gonna do an inner corner shimmer, wrong palette, and I'm just gonna use that lid color on a pencil brush for that. And then I'm just gonna take, where is it? A little of that like medium brown shade and buff that underneath. Like underneath the lash line, just to give that a little definition. But otherwise, we're gonna pop on mascara and that is it for the eyes. So when I say it's easy peasy, I was not playing around. And if you want to go a little darker on the underneath to define it a little bit more, you totally can. I might take this darker brown here. I went ahead and just popped some mascara on so we didn't have to sit through that daunting process. I'm super particular about my mascara, but the two that I used, I'll show you guys, is the Colossal Big Shot by Maybelline. This is a favorite and a go-to. It's also drugstore. Could not recommend it enough. And then I like to add the Lash Paradise mascara by L'Oreal on top. It just really makes them pop and makes them just look super luminous and like I have falsies on, and I don't. So gonna go ahead and let's do some blush. So for this look, I like to use a slightly darker color than what I usually go with, just because it matches the tone a little bit better, especially with such a dark lip. So I'm gonna use, I think it's pronounced Goa or Joa. This is the Wanderlust blush by Buxom. All of these blushes are amazing and so incredibly pigmented, which I'm sure you will see. So I like to use this Real Techniques blush brush, and I just lightly sort of tap it in. Because of how pigmented, I don't know why I can't talk today, these are. And this is like a darker, I would say almost rose color, but it doesn't look super pink, which is why I like it. So I feel like our blush is looking good. The whole look is actually looking really good, and we're almost done. So I'm gonna go ahead and do some highlight, and I'm gonna use Opal by Becca. This is one of the prettiest highlights ever. And then this brush is by Anastasia, and I've had it for ever and ever. And it just never lets me down. Look at that. Hello. This is what Opal looks like. It is, I don't know, I just feel like the perfect go-to shade. And it just looks great. So sometimes I don't like to feel like I have any harsh lines with the highlight meeting with the blush. So I'm gonna take my blush brush and kind of blend to help that out. Voila, I think we're looking good. I think we're in business. Now we just have lips left to do. Yay! This is actually like a pretty, I keep saying easy, but it's also pretty quick too. Like there's not a lot that has to go into it, which is really nice because it's not super time consuming, but the finished product just looks like you put so much effort into it, and it looks really, really good. Before I just jump into lips, let's talk lips. I know a lot of people get really intimidated by a dark, vampy lip. I get it. It's really dark and it's really bold. And if you're somebody who's not used to that, doesn't wear lip color usually, or sticks more towards nudes, which I know most people do, I understand how deciding to plop something like this on your lips for the first time would be really scary. But the only way to figure out like what your color is, what looks good on you, and master this sort of look is to try it. So I would definitely recommend picking up some drugstore dark lippies, which 2 of these that I have to show you guys are drugstore, which means they're under $10, and just try it. When you don't have to go anywhere and you're at home and you have time to just play around, I mean, that is the only way that I figured out like this is a look that I really liked on myself. So these 3 colors are some of my favorites, and they're all still available, which is why I wanted to show you, because I know a couple that I've used in the past are not available anymore, just not made. So 2 of these are the NYX Slip Tease liquid lipsticks, and these formulas are so amazing. They're very lightweight. They're more of like an oil base, so they're moisturizing. They're not gonna dry out. I personally am not a fan of liquid lipsticks at all, but these I could not recommend enough. They're so good. So the first shade that I have is Fire Dancer. So this one's a little bit lighter and a little bit more red based. And then this one here is Bang Bang, and this has a little bit more of like a purpley sort of undertone to it. So I'm just a fan of dark lips in general. I think they're really fun, especially when it's super dark, like, you know, like these. But I don't know, I just think they complement the skin tone really well. They are really pretty. But I've had to do some trial and error to figure out like what looks best on me and what I really like. So I will say that I do prefer more of like the cherry red, like darker sort of lip compared to something that's a little bit lighter and more on the berry or purple side of things. That's just me. I like them both, but I prefer something like this, and I think that's what I'm gonna use today. And then I also have this one, which is Deep Burgundy, and this is by Lorac. This is also super gorgeous, and this I would say is closer to the NYX Slip Tease. So look at that, I found a dupe and I wasn't even planning on it. So I feel like then the NYX Slip Tease could totally be a dupe for the Lorac Burgundy. I will say it's totally up to you. You don't have to do liner. I think it's more about your preference and what you're looking for. But I think especially with a liquid lip, doing a liner first tends to make it a little bit easier and less like foolproof basically in terms of getting it everywhere. So I am going to start out by using this liner by Real Her. I don't know the shade, but it's like this dark vampy red, and it's really pretty. So is it perfect? No, it's not at all. But in my experience and opinion, the liner is gonna be a lot easier to clean up than if it were just the liquid lipstick. So that's why I like to start out with that. I also tend to like to fill in. I don't do it like perfectly, it's pretty messy, but that's just so there's another layer of like, you know, dark lip liner to help keep it on and to just give it a solid, even base to apply. Truly the key to these super dark vampy lips is patience. Patience is key. I think that trying to rush through it is how you end up looking really sloppy, but if you take your time and definitely utilize like the foot of the brush, whether you know that's a liquid lipstick or actual brush that you're using to apply it. That helps so much. If you finish applying your lipstick and you feel like it doesn't look even, or like your lines are off, I always like to take a little Q-tip and just try to clean it up. If that's not working and it's smudging, then I will try to dab it with my beauty blender. If that is not working, then I like to take a concealer brush and first try to clean that up. Concealer brush with no product, by the way. And then just to make it look super clean, I'll just dab it into some setting powder and then go around. But I think this turned out pretty good. I don't think I will ever apply a dark vampy lip that is 110% perfect. That's just not realistic, and I know that. But for the most part, I'm happy with how this turned out, and I do really, really love the color. I did forget there's only one last thing that we have to do to complete our look for today, and that is setting spray. So it would probably help if I showed you all the label. This is my favorite. It's by Urban Decay. It's their all-nighter, and I'm just gonna mist this all over, which is gonna help melt any powders that we have and make sure that my makeup stays on for as long as possible. It's so refreshing, and I love the smell too, so bonus. Well, that finishes it for today's look. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video, and I hope that my little step-by-step, play-by-play of everything was helpful. Definitely tag me in any looks if you end up recreating this at all. And if you haven't already, make sure you're subscribed to my channel so you're the first to see any of my new videos, and give me a thumbs up if you like today's video. I also want to know if you guys have any dark vampy lipsticks that you absolutely love. So if you do, leave those down below, and I would love to check them out. But thank you so much again for tuning in, and until next time.